Hello and welcome to The Round So Far, brought to you by AAMI. I'm Riley Beveridge. This is Kate McCarthy. And Kate, it has been a dramatic Saturday night. Let's get to our big story that comes from the Adelaide Oval, where the Crows came from behind following a thrilling final quarter to hold on by 3 points.
Yeah, Riley, this was the first goal kicked, actually the first point at all kicked in the final quarter. 17 minutes 30 into that final term. It was a matter of which coach was going to blink first, and then it ended up in a shootout. So goal for goal all the way through. We saw Riley Thilthorpe take a very important mark, then go back and slot it. And then explain to me how Nick Dacos can get a handball received at the top of 50 when the game is on the line. That is something that the Crows would want to tidy up. The most important player of the opposition being able to bob up in a situation like that. But they held on 3 points, the difference, and they got the job done, and they still sit atop of the AFL table.
It was an absolute slugfest in that final term. You mentioned Riley Thilthorpe. He was involved in a controversial moment late in the game when he didn't hand the ball directly back to the boundary umpire. He kicked it past him. Now, I can see what he's trying to do. I reckon he's trying to flick this ball up to the boundary umpire. He's trying to be a bit cute. No free was paid. I'm happy with that. I'm comfortable with that. I reckon you've got to play a bit of common sense there. Yeah,
for me, to the letter of the law, that is a free kick. But when you look at the context of the game, I don't think that free kick then loses Collingwood the game. Yeah. They're not paying that. So it's not one of those ones where that happens where a player could have a snap, a shot on goal, or it's a kick inside forward 50. So whilst Pies fans are going to be filthy that that's not paid a free kick, because technically it was one, in my opinion, that did not change the outcome of the match.
I think they're haunted by that memory of what happened against Fremantle a couple of years ago as well, the Pies fans. All right, so Adelaide has one hand on the minor premiership now, but what about Collingwood? Because they threw this game away. It was remarkable. They had 71 inside 50s to 37. They actually played this pretty well in the first term in terms of their ball movement, but then they started going long up the line. And yes, the weather had something to do with it, but were they a bit too risk-averse, Kate?
Yeah, well, in the first quarter, they were basically play on at all costs, try and hit short kicks, be really dangerous and bold and attacking with their ball movement. In that time, they kicked 5 goals. From that point after, they went into this long, slow ball movement, which we've seen at times this season from the Pies, only resulted in 3 goals for the remainder of the game. That is the biggest inside 50 differential that Collingwood have ever given up and not gone on to win the game. So the fact that they're plus 34 for inside 50s, but only kicked the 8 goals, the Crows had 9 goals from their 37 inside 50s. That is the big part of the match where really their movement inside 50 let them down.
So they cough up a 25-point lead at quarter time, do Collingwood. They've lost 5 of their last 6 games now. They are in extreme danger of dropping outside of the top 4 by season's end. Do you think they can win it from outside the top 4 if that does eventuate?
Look, for me, where they're sitting at the moment, as you said, 5 of their last 6 they've lost. They've lost to teams that are inside that top 8, at least 3 of those games. And just the way that they're playing, so their stars, we had a look last week at the drop-off of some of their stars. They're not playing good enough football consistently enough for me to say that their team is stable enough to win from outside the top 4. You have other teams that are sort of threatening outside that top 4, like the Giants, when their stars are all firing, they are as good as anyone in the competition. But for me, what we've seen from the last sort of 5 to 6 weeks from Collingwood, it's been a bit Dacos or broke, really, at times. And that's both Dacos players. So it's one of those things, I don't think they can win it from outside the top 4 at this point with the form that they're showing across all 3 lines.
It's going to be a massive week ahead for Craig McRae and Collingwood. All right, let's get to Gold Coast against the Giants, where the Giants went on the road to get a crucial victory. And that's where we find your launch zone, Kate, because we want to talk about Gold Coast going to sleep from kick-ins. They kicked 4 goals from kick-ins, the Giants. This is unheard of.
Yeah, 4 goals end to end. And in the post-match press conference, Damien Hardwick said they were a metre off today. Well, they are not a metre off in any of these clips. They are 5 to 6 metres from their opponent. And the fact that GWS can just do this, it literally looked like a training drill at times. That looks like match sim before the game when you're trying to work out your set plays and there's 3 less players on the opposition. It's just the way that they were able to move this ball with freedom from their kick-ins. So you said 4 goals from kick-ins. The AFL average from kick-ins is 4 points in a game. That is what teams average. For them to go end-to-end, that's the Gold Coast Suns that we're used to seeing from years ago. When teams would go up to the Gold Coast, they could bank an easy victory. They could go coast to coast on them. That's not the Gold Coast Suns we're used to seeing in 2025 under Damien Hardwick. So for me, for them to concede that, they really need to evaluate what is going on in the games where they play well compared to the games where they don't turn up, because essentially GWS controlled this game from start to finish.
The Suns had conceded 61 points from kick-ins all season until today, and they concede 24 points in a game. It's remarkable. All right, let's get to our Saturday star, and is one of my favourites in Darcy Jones. Had 18 disposals and a goal, which you might not think are big numbers, but have a look at this vision here. His defensive work rate, just to continually harass and put pressure on the opposition, was immense all the way through the game.
Yeah, and if you look at the stats, he laid 4 tackles, but we're not going to highlight the tackles here. We're highlighting the pressure acts, because at times there are things that you do on a football field that you don't get direct stats for, that people like to look at and like to glorify. His ability to just never give up on the play, to put pressure on the opponents, whether he's actually in the vicinity to start with or not, and to do that, to elicit turnovers. This play here, he does not give up on it. This goes for quite some time, and he continues to pressure. So lays that pressure there, then the play goes on. Look how involved he stays in this play. Therefore, comes across, stays on the right side, forces that to be a kick on the non-preferred inside forward 50, which then goes straight to a turnover. So Darcy Jones, we love small forwards. We love them putting pressure on. And if you can get yourself into the game like that as a small forward, the rewards will come on the other side of it.
Harry Ralston made a name for himself as well today. Kicked 4 goals playing as a small forward. He's been a sub for the last 3 matches, has Harry Ralston. But they got some production out of their lesser lights. So he kicks 4. Max Grozewski kicks 3. He's been ploughing away in the VFL for quite some time. But Ralston was the star of the show. Yeah,
just again, how many times he pops up on his own inside forward 50. Yes, really nice work rate from Harry Ralston, but what are the Gold Coast Suns defenders doing in these moments that we're seeing? Especially that one and the one we just saw before, just pops up completely on his own. After this clip here, I want you to keep an eye on Noah Anderson. Turns straight around, points at him and says, he's kicked 3, what are we doing? Why is no one anywhere near him? So well done to Harry Ralston, and a really nice output for him. It's hard when you play so many games starting as a sub, then you get thrown into a new position. He made hay while the sun shone on the Gold Coast, but Gold Coast Suns just paid him no respect, and he made them pay.
I'm going to start calling the Giants the Dryants, because we have wet weather teams, but when it's dry and hot and sunny, that's when the Giants turn it on. They just got the best team.
How does the tsunami work in the dry?
That
doesn't add up.
Don't ask those type of questions, Kate. All right, let's go to the MCG, where Jack Gunston was the star of the show. He kicked 7 goals as Hawthorn beat Melbourne. Remarkably now, Kate, he's got 60 goals for the year. His previous high across his entire career, and we know how decorated career he's had, was 58, which he kicked in 2014. His incredible season just continues.
Yeah, this is his best output for a season, and he's had 16 of them. So that just says something about the kind of form that he is in. I thought it was quite ironic, and Sam Mitchell touched on it. So we all know, we'll get to Luke Bruce in his moment, but him and Gunston, their whole career, have had this rivalry. This game was supposed to be all about Luke Bruce, and Jack Gunston just comes out and kicks an equal career high 7 goals and still steals some of the spotlight. But it takes me to the point that I want to get to with our key forwards this year, and who do we see in All-Australian contention? So let's say we're having 3 key forwards, which they usually go with the makeup for the All-Australian team. Lock in Jeremy Cameron. We all know the season that he has had. The next 2 spots are pretty much up for grabs. For me, I'm taking Jack Gunston and I'm taking Riley Thilthorpe. I just think their output has been consistent across the year, and I think they're the 2 that I'd lock in alongside Jeremy Cameron. Who are you taking, Riley?
I'm definitely taking Thilthorpe, even though he's the last for goals in that list. I think his output's been fantastic. But then, as you mentioned, Jack Gunston, for him to kick 60 goals, and let's not forget, he started the season at Box Hill. He played the first 2 games in the VFL before making his way into this side. So I think I'm with you, Kate. Cameron, Gunston and Riley Thilthorpe, and then you can raffle off the small forwards as they go, I think, because that race is wide open. One man who's not going to be a small forward All-Australian, but he's one of the best to ever play the game, is Luke Bruce. Announced he was retiring earlier this week. That'll come at the end of the season, but this goal was just about one of the moments of the weekend. The Bruce that went up as he kicked this was fantastic.
Yeah, it was fitting, wasn't it? And the celebration, it was a really emotional speech that he delivered during the week, announcing his retirement. And you're right, one of the best small forwards, if not the best small forward to ever do it, in such a consistent manner as well. He's not flashy. He doesn't do the things that we see some of the small forwards of the competition do, but he is ever reliable, and that is a way that he will be remembered in this game.
All right, let's get to one of the most consequential results of the weekend. It came on Friday night when Brisbane went over to Perth and beat Fremantle on their home deck. And it was the way they did it which I found this quite staggering, because it was right from the outset. the manner in which they were just chipping the ball around right throughout. They took 147 uncontested marks. This was a game plan that Chris Fagan must have set up before the match.
Yeah, absolutely. And we all know that Brisbane are more likely to win when they're able to get the game on their terms and take marks and uncontested marks like this. And stood here last week and highlighted St Kilda's ability to just consistently change direction and go nowhere. There's 140 uncontested marks, and then there's this as well. Their ability to shift the defence, to wait for something, to be patient, to see what opens up, but then when the kick is on, to take it back through the corridor and then go from there. So somehow at the end of this play, and this is a positive for Brisbane, but also a little bit of a defensive breakdown from Fremantle. Yeah. How on earth, after that build-up, do you have a spare player inside forward 50? So twofold, really good work from the Lions, from their coaching staff and their players to execute that. But for Fremantle to not change their game plan and constantly allow the uncontested marks to get to the point of 147 for a game, they were really, really reactive in that sense.
Speaking of all Australians, we spoke about it before, one man who's going to be right in the mix for that small forward role this year is Zach Bailey. I reckon this is just about goal of the year, this overhead effort that he kicked. He had 28 disposals and 2 goals. This was one of the best you'll see all season, I reckon.
Yeah, it was really reminiscent of Nate Caddy.
Yes.
He did it up at the Gabba, funnily enough, but he was a little bit further out. He said post-match he doesn't think he's ever actually kicked a ball like that, and he had no idea how that went in. But for me, that is goal of the year. He absolutely nailed it from that far out, and there's only one way that could go. It was either going to be an absolute disaster or goal of the year.
So Brisbane's top 4 chances now back on the agenda, and if they do make top 4, they're going to be a hard side to beat come finals time, because this is their record against the top 9 this season, 8-4. And they've only failed to record a victory against 2 sides in Adelaide and the Giants so far this season against the top 9.
Yeah, they're a big team. They're big team players at the moment. Yeah. Big games. When they're playing teams inside the top 9, they turn it on. Really, we've seen games where they've struggled to turn up. They have been inconsistent at times, but you just feel like they're firepower, and when there is a game that's there to be won and lost, they are the team that does show up 9 times out of 10 and gets the job done. So I think they're going to be a very dangerous prospect for any team that comes across them in the finals again this year.
They certainly are. What a missed opportunity, though, for Fremantle at the other end of the spectrum, because last year they lost their last 4 straight games. They were 3rd after round 20 and then missed out on finals. This year they'd won 5 straight. They were right on track. They just needed to win that game at home. Now, next week's clash against the Western Bulldogs at Marvel Stadium shapes as an elimination final for them. They'll go in underdogs for that game, though. They've got their backs against the wall right now, the Dockers.
Yeah, they do. And obviously the Bulldogs play West Coast tomorrow, but then it's all eyes going to be at Marvel Stadium when the Bulldogs play Fremantle, because if most things go the way that you'd think they would play out, and I'll probably be made a fool for saying that because of the way that things have gone the last couple of weeks, but you think that game against Fremantle and the Western Bulldogs is going to be the one that sets up the final spot inside the 8, and it is a case of deja vu for Fremantle fans, because they know the story, they saw the movie last year, they saw how it played out, so they would be hoping that it is a very different outcome for the end of this season.
They are going to be incredibly stiff if they miss out, though, with 15 wins. That's a remarkable fact. All right, Nat Fyfe, he announced his retirement earlier this week as well, and we think it's his final game at Optus Stadium, so he just had a really nice moment at the end of this one. Obviously a disappointing result, 57-point losers to the Brisbane Lions, but a dual Brownlow medalist, played in that grand final, Fremantle's first ever grand final in 2013. What a great career it is for Nat Fyfe. All right, let's get to our AAMI clangers now. Who covers clangers? AAMI does. We will start at Marvel Stadium on Friday night. Liam McMahon, what a great story he's been for Essendon this year, and he just pops this one into the corporate box.
Yeah, straight through the window. There might be some damage there. There might be some AAMI claims that are made, because that went straight through. Probably knocked someone's drink out of their hand on the way. This one, if you edge the ball in cricket, you never walk. Well, Dylan Moore's just basically done that. He's told everyone that it was touched, but they didn't bother reviewing it anyway, so he ended up getting the 6 points.
And Callum Brown does the backflip and then gets pinged for holding the ball, which is as stiff as it comes, I reckon, because the acrobatics were on show here from Cal Brown, went right over. But if you think that's a good flip, have a look at what Harry Mackay did at Marvel Stadium today. Geez, he's lucky he braced for contact there, because that was a full front tumble there from from Harry Mackay. He had a fantastic day out, but that's a moment that he got incredibly lucky with. Let's stay at Marvel Stadium, Saturday afternoon footy, where Carlton just turned it on against Port Adelaide. They led by 37 points in the first quarter. They kicked the first 6 goals unanswered. And Harry Mackay was the star of the show. He kicked 7 goals today, right back in form. This is why, and I've been adamant about this the whole way through the season, you don't trade guys like Harry Mackay. Because when he's on, he's on. When the ball movement's a bit better, Carlton can flourish with it. And I think if you trade someone like Harry Mackay, what are you trying to get back with the draft picks? You're trying to draft the next Harry Mackay.
Yeah, well, it was his equal career high, obviously the 7 goals. He also had 15 score involvements to go with it. So you're right, he was on this afternoon at Marvel Stadium. The thing that I think helped Harry was the way that they finally moved the ball a little bit quicker. So they played far more attacking football. They were able to make the ground nice and big, take some uncontested possessions when they were on. And as a key forward or as a forward of any size, that helps you so much up the field, because you're going to either have genuine one-on-ones or you're going to be able to buy yourself some time to get out on a lead and get the ball delivered to you.
All right, what about Port Adelaide? 5 straight losses, 3 of those losses by more than 9 goals. Ken Hinkley's final game next week at home against Gold Coast. You really hope they can send him out in style, because it's something that the coach of Port Adelaide, the long-time coach, certainly deserves. But their end to this season has been less than flattering. Yeah,
their drop-off in form, I think, is probably something that hasn't really been spoken about a whole lot. They were second on the ladder at the end of the home and away season last year. The way that they've fallen away this season has been... I think the succession plan has maybe taken the hit for it, because there's no one really coming for Ken at the back half of the season. Rightly so. He's been sort of the front man taking all the hits on behalf of Josh Carr, who has been coaching that team for the last couple of months. But essentially 2025 has been a bit of a write-off for them, really, with where they now find themselves. So what can Josh Carr do in the off-season? Ken Hinkley deserves a massive send-out game on the weekend or next weekend against the Gold Coast Suns, and that comes a little bit as a danger game now for the Suns. For a team like Port Adelaide, that when they have something on the line to play for, they are a really dangerous team. You add Travis Boak into the mix of that as a retiring legend of the club. It is a little bit of a danger game, but yeah, Port's drop-off has been remarkable.
Couldn't agree with you more, Kate. All right, Friday night footy at Marvel Stadium, Essendon against St Kilda, and the Saints held on following a thrilling final term. Essendon led for 81 minutes in this one, but St Kilda got the job done when it mattered most. Yeah,
they did, and it's been a bit like this for St Kilda the last few weeks. They've just found a way. We go all the way back to Melbourne. They obviously got the chocolates in the last term there, and even last week against Richmond, played probably one really good quarter of football and were able to just get it done. And Essendon, they were throwing everything at the Saints. For a team that had nothing to play for, they played some good footy on Friday night and looked like there was more on the line for them. And then this last kick from Redmond, off a step from 50, if you don't mind, and just pulls it to the left and couldn't quite get it over the line. But if anyone says that it doesn't mean anything to the Essendon Football Club, you just see that reaction from Dersmer on the siren, and they're hurting. They know it's been their 11th consecutive loss for the season, and they want to get out of this with a win, but not to be on Friday night.
15 debutants this season for Essendon, so plenty of those guys fighting for their career as well, which they have plenty on the line on Friday night. Andrew McGrath isn't one of them, but he might have been one of the biggest success stories for the Bombers from Friday night. He's averaged 3 centre bounce attendances throughout this year. He had 22 on Friday night, and he finished with 35 disposals, 9 score involvements, 9 tackles and 6 clearances.
Yeah, him and Mason Redmond were easily the 2 best Bombers on the ground, and let's just hope that they persist with this now. I know Merritt was out this week with that hand injury. There's questions around whether he comes back in this week or not. But if he does, Andrew McGrath still needs to stay as an inside mid, in my opinion. Numbers like that, his ability to just distribute the ball really nicely from that position, to win clearance, to win his own footy, needs to stay as an inside mid in that team.
All right, what about St Kilda? Because they've won 4 consecutive games now, all by single-digit margins. It's seen them go from 15th on the ladder at round 19 all the way up to 12th. So, I mean, there's one argument that says, is this good for the culture of the football club? Which I'm on that side, firmly on that side. There's another argument that says, should they have eased off the pedal a bit and got an earlier draft pick, especially considering their position in their rebuild at the moment? Where do you stand on that?
Anyone that sits on the side of the fence that you play for draft picks from 19 rounds, from round 19 out, has never been inside a football club and doesn't know what a winning culture does to you as a group. The more games that you can win on the back end, the better that you are as a football club moving into the next season. The whole morale, you see the clips of Essendon post-match.
Yeah.
Do you want to feel like that, or do you want to feel like winners at the end of the game? Yes, it's 2 points of difference, but 4 in a row now, the feeling that they have in that group, they're trying to retain the signature of Nasiah Wanganeen-Miller.
Yep.
You want to win as many games as you can at any part of the football season, but particularly in the back half when you haven't had the most successful season that you could have. You want to win as many games as you can.
They won 5 of their last 6 games last year as well, did the Saints. All right, let's get to the rest of the round now. North Melbourne taking on Richmond in Tasmania. Then we've got Sydney against Geelong at the SCG and Western Bulldogs against West Coast to finish us off at Marvel Stadium. The Dogs certainly need to win that one ahead of that mini-elimination final against Freo next week. Kate, great job by you tonight. Great job by our audience tuning in, as they always do, on afl.com.au. We'll see you next week on the Round So Far.